Armor, we are live.
Hello, everyone. Let's wait for some cameras to come on here.
Hi, it's Lorraine. I can't get my video to start because Crystal disabled me.
Oh, I'm sure she'll fix that rather quick. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is our last meeting for this term of council. I want to thank you all right now for being part of this great committee and doing what you've done for the town of Huntsville. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I do confirm we do have quorum, and I'll read the land acknowledgement statement. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Roberts and Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walk in the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. I'd like a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes. Lorraine, moved by Lorraine, seconded by Laurel. Is recommended that the accessibility committee meeting agenda dated September 2022 be adopted and printed to circulated. All those in favor? And that carries. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none, we're going to move right on. We're on to number 4 already. Deputations, 4.1. We have Tammy Hunt here from the Hudson Hair Salon and Spa. She's here to talk about accessible picnic tables for the downtown Huntsville. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. Do I just start?
You could just go right ahead. I don't know if you have a PowerPoint presentation or you need to share your screen or just chat.
I don't, yeah, so it's just going to be verbal. So I just want to say hi to everyone. My name's Tammy Hunt. So I just have to excuse me. This is the first time I'm doing it, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but thank you very much for meeting me and giving me the opportunity. I just kind of want to go into a little bit of a background per se of what I will be asking and kind of where the forum started. So I'm Tammy and I own the Hudson Hair Salon and Spa with my other 2 sisters in downtown Huntsville. We have been in business for almost about 10 years. So we've always felt that we needed to support the community and we love being able to partake and kind of donate wherever. We donated as much as we could to Christine's Place, Chrysalis Center, families that needed support even through the food bank for the years that we've been open. But after the pandemic and seeing firsthand how life was altered and a lot was people were put in the financial crisis, we wanted to change things up a bit. Being in the hair and aesthetic business, our team acts as therapists, and we sort of have a front row seat into many lives of families, kids, and individuals in and around the town. Because of this, in 2021, we wanted to shift our involvement in the community by creating a charity specifically to help out as much as we can in certain aspects where we felt and heard was necessary. We did this by creating the Hudson Charity in 2021 and held our first annual charity event last July in Rivermill Park. That first year, we wanted to mainly raise money for a local HHS student wanting to further their career in either cosmetology or hairstyling field. So we did work closely with the high school, with counselors and teachers alike to kind of pick the person best suited for the bursary. And it ended up last year being our local co-op student, which is unbelievable, Erica. So we were really excited to do this. But then after that charity and then 2021 and then the remainder of 2022, we kind of through the salon met an amazing family, the Conabys, and their young son was diagnosed with a really rare neurological disease called GAND. So we had watched this family grow. We watched them date, get married. We heard about it. Then she got pregnant and had little Quinn, and then, you know, hear the things and the stories until he was diagnosed. So we had wanted to give back to the community in a way of helping support the family and little Quinn in whatever they could use. And when we first started, you know, speaking with them, it really opened our eyes that with programs within the town that are funded, running out of funds, or there's no funds at all. And this family really relied, not this family in particular, but there was a whole group of families that we were told about that need certain therapies and programs every single day for their little ones or family members. So our focus has now really allowed us to open our eyes to the needs with people with disabilities and what they endure on a daily basis at home, but just in the downtown core as well. We were ignorant, but not on purpose, but to the amenities, structures, play areas for those with disabilities in the downtown core, and that some were missing. Throughout the 2021 and 2022 year, we have really come to appreciate what the community could really use to truly be inclusive for all individuals, including babies, kids, adults with all forms of disabilities. Our mission at the Hudson is now to gear a lot of our focus on re-examining and learning about equipment and structures so that the downtown can be a place for the entire family to enjoy, perhaps even making a day out of it, spending time with your family, again, in the downtown core. This being said, our second annual charity that just passed in July in Rivermill Park, we were able to raise over $38,000, which was incredible. And because of that, we do want to give back. So we have dispersed the funds to another bursary to another HHS student for 2023. And then some went to the Conaby family and then set up therapies within the community. But I would like to recommend that the committee pass a motion to support our initiative and our donation to build a wheelchair accessible picnic table and have it placed in the downtown core for all those to enjoy. I would also like to see if the staff would able to report to me back with any options in the building process. And that's it.
Wow, thank you for that, Tammy. Thank you to you and your sister. That's wonderful. I'm going to go to the committee to see if the committee has any questions for Tammy. I don't see any. Oh, committee member Laura Shaw, go ahead.
Hi there. I just wondering where you were thinking of putting it. In Rivermill Park, were you thinking, or?
Yeah, so initially I thought maybe on the docks, but because I'm new integrating into the town, I'm just not sure where it would go. I would love on the docks or somewhere in and around Rivermill Park. The only thing that I was told in going through this is wheelchair accessibility, obviously with the picnic table. And I know there was some concerns when we had went through this process for the last year, speaking to families and somewhere where it would be feasible, because sometimes, you know, if it's raining and stuff, it is hard to push the wheelchair, obviously through mulch in a playground or through grass sometimes. So that's why my initial thought was maybe the town docks, but again, yeah, wherever basically is allowed.
Right.
Perfect.
So you would work with the town to decide that? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, so I didn't have any, that's where I was thinking, but I mean, there's lots of suggestions out there on what can be done and what can't be done. So just obviously, because it is accessible wheelchair, just wherever it's placed, making sure that they can get to it and not be a struggle.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other questions? Committee member Diane, go ahead.
I don't have any questions, but just to note that Community Living Huntsville did work with Home Depot, and we were able to get some wheelchair accessible picnic tables from Home Depot for our agency and have them like at our locations, but they actually work quite well. So
nice. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you for that, Diane. Councillor Schumacher, did I see your hand up?
Yes, but it was mostly going to be to direct you through you to Diane, that I knew that Community Living had done some. I thought maybe they were going forward with putting some in the community, but I think it was just at the local homes.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like we got a lot of options here. Does anybody else have any more questions? Not seeing any. Tammy, oh, Councillor Schumacher, go ahead.
Well, Lorraine has her hand up, but I also wanted to maybe suggest,
Oh, I didn't see
Tammy,
that.
that the Rotary Club of North Muskoka is looking to do the sensory sort of garden path in the area near Gangnam, Korea, the river, what is it called? River Park?
Okay.
River Park
Riverview
there?
Park.
Riverview Park.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe that might also be a place to connect with the Rotary Club of North Muskoka. They're the ones that sort of meet in the morning, and that might be a good location because they are already trying to do an accessible walk area, sensory walk and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I heard when I met with the town and a member of Community Living, when this kind of transpired and just thinking, what can we do to help? One of the things that came up, it was almost like a sensory park. So our going forward with the charity is a little portion of this year's going towards the picnic table, but even coming up with a plan. The Rotary is supposed to get back to me about where they are at the stage of the sensory park, and I know it's just beginning, I believe. So I told her, I would love to be a part of that. We would love to be a part of that. So setting the remainder of the funds aside and seeing if we could just either disperse that where they need it or just continually save until we can put what we can into that as well. So it's neat, yeah.
Excellent. Committee Member Wanda, do you have your hand up there?
I
Perfect.
did, but I was going to say exactly what Dion said.
There you go. Perfect. Everybody's thinking alike here for sure. So do we have any more questions? Tammy, we do have this coming up later in our agenda where we'll be discussing it, and we could have a motion on the floors, but so I'm sure Crystal or somebody will get back to you after the meeting and advise you of the outcome.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again for coming. Really appreciate it. And thank you for what you and your sister do for our community. It's fabulous.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Well, that's great news. We're moving on to number 5, which was the site plan review. It was Ontario Inc. 2724107. There was no issues, all following AOTA, and nothing there to report. On to number 6, which is previous business. That's 6.11. It's the downtown Huntsville accessible parking. I think Lorraine brought this. Lorraine, would you like to speak to it?
So what I wanted to address was the removal of the parking spot that used to be in front of that little place by the lights. There was an accessible spot there, and it's now a loading dock. And I would like to propose that we speak to the town about moving one of the spots, the accessible spots, that's up the hill at around Town Hall, and doing a switch so that there's one of those spots is at the bottom of the hill, because without a parking spot down there, I can no longer shop in that area. And somebody said to me yesterday, they can't go and get any, oh my God, what's the name of the place next? The food
Little
place.
Little place by the light?
No, they're not pancakes. The
Beaver Tails.
Beaver Tails. I don't know why that blocked from my mind. So somebody told me yesterday who was in a chair, they can no longer go for Beaver Tails because they can't go. It's just too far for them to get to anything, to park and then come down hills or go up hills to be able to get to any of the stores in that location, because the hills are quite steep in that area. And I know for myself, whenever I drive that area, there's 3 parking spots and they're always gone and there's no accessible. So we just have stopped shopping there completely. that part of the street is inaccessible. Whereas higher up the street, where there's more parking in front of Town Hall, there's also accessible spots behind the RBC and behind Wolf Clothing. So there's actually a fair number of spots up the hill, but none on the lower part of the hill. And I know that, you know, there's limited parking, so I don't want to say take away a parking spot and make it accessible. I'm just suggesting that we move an existing accessible spot where there's multiple and put one down there so that there's the same number. It's just the location is revised to just bring it back to where it was before all of the construction. So that's it.
Okay, thanks for that. Committee member Lupton, I see you have your hand.
I'd have to agree with Lorraine. I recently had brought my mom downtown and we walked from the town hall down to the lower area and she couldn't get back up. So she struggled to get back up to our car that was parked up closer to the town hall. So I can relate to people just won't go down the hill.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Chair Armour. Yes, and I mentioned this at council last night because we did kind of bring up that this discussion would happen. Today, I myself had taken someone to the concert on the dock who was in a walker and had to unload the walker and everything out of the car. They have an accessible pass, but again, there isn't anything lower down at that end to park and be able to unload. So I literally parked in the Algonquin Outfitters parking spots to unload and then had to go and drive further up to be able to park my car, kind of thing. So I do agree that there needs to be something sort of at that end of town.
Thanks for that. Committee member Shaw.
I believe there used to be two down at that end at one time. One of them was in front of where Stedman's used to be, if anybody's as old as me and remembers that. And then they changed that because they thought it would be better for making the right-hand turn and all that stuff. And then there was still the one at the other side. Now they've moved the other one. So the two are actually gone, I believe. Somebody can check that for sure, but I believe there was one down by Stedman's there or whatever. Oh, I guess the ice cream place.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah. Do we have any more comments? I see our director of Operations Protective Service, Tarmo, is on here. Maybe Tarmo could like chime in here about something like this. Tarmo, welcome.
Hi. Hello, Councillor or Chair Armour, I guess in this case, and the committee members. We can definitely look at this. One of the things that we would have to engage with the BIA as well to look at what their loading needs are. On the other side of the street by Beaver Tails, there's the right-hand turn lane that goes onto Brunel Road that is much shorter than what the original right-hand turn lane was, and that was originally used as a loading zone, but no longer can be for safety reasons. So we've had to move that loading zone around up to in front of Town Hall in that area. So we can make changes and move things around. We just want to work with everybody to find the best solution for that.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Yeah, I know the loading zones there. There's 3 other parking spots. I'm just wondering if we could turn one of the other parking spots into an accessible parking area. And I'm not sure if a cutout though would be close enough to be able. May have to do a cutout on the sidewalk also, unless they can come down by the loading dock to get up.
Yeah, I'd have to look at exactly where the cutouts would be required. They're converting those parking spots into that.
Okay. Not sure. Does anybody have like to put a motion on the floor maybe to direct them to look into that and come back to the committee? Committee member Blondin and seconded by Schumacher. Do you have any prepared, Crystal?
I do, just one moment.
All the time you need.
And sorry, I missed the seconder.
Councillor Schumacher.
Okay, I'll just share my screen.
Excellent. There we go. Moved by Lorraine Blondin, seconded by Councillor Dion Schumacher. It's recommended that committee request staff investigate the potential of converting a parking space near the intersection of Main Street, Burnell into an accessible parking space. I think that should do it. Do we have any questions for that? Don't see any. All those in favor? And that motion passes. Well done. Thanks again, Tarmo. Appreciate it. We're moving on to number 7, which is new business. And 7.1 is new term coming up, committee recruitment. And that's Lorraine again. Floor is yours, Lorraine. Or should I say the screen, I guess.
Just trying to get all my items in before the end of term.
We appreciate it.
So obviously, new council, new accessibility committee, and I have been talking to Crystal about this, that I think it's really important for us to do outreach, to find some new members for this committee, to ensure that we meet the AODA requirements for enough individuals with lived experience to be on the committee, individuals who are experiencing something where they need accessibility across the town. So I am not going to continue on to the next term. I have been reaching out to people myself, trying to recruit some people, but I thought it was important that we as a committee maybe have a discussion about where are some of the places that we could be recruiting from. So I think it's important that we don't always just look at individuals who have a mobility issue. That, you know, obviously I represent individuals with mental health issues. We have individuals representing people with developmental disabilities, vision loss, but, you know, there's also, you know, going forward, could we reach out to, say, Canadian Mental Health and see if there's some individuals from there who might, actual individuals with lived experience who might be interested on committee, or, you know, hearing loss. And I just thought as a committee, we should discuss where are our areas that we're not representing well, or will have vacancies going forward, and just come up with some outreach and a plan for how we're going to outreach, whether it's us as a committee, individual members going out, or what can the town do. And I know Crystal has a plan, but I just thought it needed to be spoken out loud, that I think there's some gaps on this committee, and that we need to always ensure that it's not just workers representing individuals, that we have actually individuals who have lived experience being on this committee. So that's it.
Excellent. Thanks for that. That's very good. But I think we do have a bylaw in place, I think, that we have to follow. Maybe Crystal can speak to the process we currently use. That'd be good.
I would be happy to. So we do have a council approved policy, citizen appointment policy that we follow we look after that within the clerk's department. So just to give everybody just a little bit of an idea of the process. So once our new council is sworn in, that will happen in November, the mayor sets all of the committees for that term. So the mayor decides what committees are going to be established. We work with them to establish terms of reference and mandates. Where Accessibility Advisory Committee is unique is that it is legislatively required. So we will 100% have an Accessibility Advisory Committee, again, because it is a required committee. So in terms of recruitment for that, we will be publishing in the newspaper, publishing vacancies on our website. We make the forms available online here at Town Hall. They are accessible, and we do publish notice by way of our social media channels. That being said, as current AAC members, you are certainly welcome to spread the word and recommend individuals apply, but that will all come out with the new term of council, and it is a fairly quick turnaround, but it is all the information will be made available through those notifications of what the requirements are for someone to sit on that committee. So for example, they do have to be a resident of Huntsville. So something like that. And then again, any of the legislative requirements are outlined in that. So like what Lorraine was speaking to. But absolutely, if committee has some people in mind or has some outreach that they have connections with, that is certainly committee members are able to do that.
Thank you for that. I know being part of the process last, 4 years ago, there's an application process and they came in and we actually reviewed the applications with the mayor. And I believe the CEO could have been part of that group at the same time. And committee members were chosen that way. So it's good if you just outreach, I think, to people you may know want to be part of the committee and have them watch for the advertisements that come out and complete the application forms and submit them. And I believe we're required to have members on the committee with disabilities or needs, right? Is that not correct, Crystal? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
It is. It's a very interesting part of the legislation. There's legislation requiring that 50% of the committee be made up in that way. However, we are also not able to ask that. So right. We're not able to put that on our form in any way, shape, or form. So it's a little bit of an interesting one. So we do our absolute best, but it's kind of one of those catch-22. We absolutely strive to have that 50% because it is legislatively required. However, we are legislatively required not to ask that as well.
That's correct. Perfect. Thank you, Lorraine, for that. So I think the best thing is just reach out to your friends and people may be interested and tell them to watch for the advertisement to come out and get their applications in. Excellent. Thank you. 7.2, committee member compensation. And that's Lorraine again. The floor is yours, Lorraine.
So back prior to the pandemic, so I think this was a meeting back in February 2020, I had brought this up. And I just think that it's still an issue that needs to be addressed. So for our individuals who attend this meeting, I can remember many times when we met in person, people were having trouble getting to the meeting because the accessible bus was not available. And I picked up lots of people because they couldn't get to the meeting otherwise. And I thought it was very ironic that people couldn't get to a meeting about accessibility because of accessibility issues. And so one of the things I proposed way back was that this committee have a budget that would allow for transportation for individuals who have to take a taxi to get to the meeting and that they be reimbursed for that. And I also think that it would be good to have an honorarium paid to members in the same way that members of the Committee of Adjustments get some honorarium for being part of that committee. And the reason I say this is because the individuals who may be on this committee, but certainly in my life experience working in mental health and lived experience, is that individuals who have disabilities tend to be in the lowest economic strata of our community. They are on disability payments that are not high. They don't have the extra money to pay for taxis. They may not be able to come to a meeting just because they can't even afford the bus fare to get there. And I know that when I was the manager of a large mental health center in Toronto, whenever we had community requirements to have our clients engage us, say it was a survey, we needed to do a meeting with them to get feedback, that kind of thing. We always paid transportation there and back, and usually a meal voucher of some sort as well. But transportation was never on the onus of the client. And I think in this case that if we're trying to get individuals to join this committee, to give up their time, to know the legislation, to be involved in things outside of just this meeting, but to have a knowledge base that the town is legislated to have, to have these meetings and to have individuals with experience, that those individuals at a minimum aren't out of pocket, and even better that they get paid at least an honorarium of some sort to recognize the value of the individuals on this committee. And I know that citizens on other committees have been reimbursed. So I think in fairness, this committee should also get some transportation reimbursement as well as an honorarium.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's great. Does anybody else have any comments about that? Not seeing any. Oh, Councillor Schumacher, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair Armour, to Crystal. If we did discuss this, was there a motion passed before that would, when we pass a motion at this committee and then it goes to council the following, that's an adoption of what we have passed? Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, there was some requests for that to be investigated into. And so there was no, at that time, there was no honorarium provided. However, if I can speak to the
Yes.
reimbursement for any costs, there is currently a budget for that. So this year, the budget amount was 300, and that can be a request of committee to change that as well. But there is a budget allocated just for that. So for if there are committee members who are having to pay for transportation, pay to get here in any way for the meeting, or any costs associated with them having to or being able to participate in the meeting, then they can submit that to us, and there is a budget line item for that.
I think that's great. I think it needs to be clear. I mean, obviously the pandemic and Zoom meetings have changed things, but that was never, maybe you did discuss it when I was not participating in the meetings because I was in cancer treatment at the time, but I just think it needs to be clear going forward that transportation can be reimbursed. And was the honorarium ever discussed by council, or was that kind of lost in the craziness of the pandemic happening?
I think it might have get lost maybe in the pandemic, but I know we always had a budget of $300 put aside. As you know, budget, we're coming up now to, they always begin the budget process early in November and October. So that would have to be added. If we want to increase the amount from $300 to more, and then looking at stipend for lay people, et cetera, we'd have to get that included in the submissions coming from early. So it would be discussed by all council at the time. So I guess we could maybe, I see Sia Corey's on the screen. Maybe she could speak to it, or maybe she just take a mental note, or will we have to put a motion on the floor for something, for them to look into something like that?
Chairman, so I know that conversations have taken place in the past with respect to compensation, and we've also, as the deputy clerk alluded to, we've had different types of committee structures. So in the past, we've also had committees whereby we have had lay people sit on those committees as well. So they would have been divisional committees, economic, things like that. So I think if this committee is interested in, and I would certainly defer to the deputy clerk for procedural advice on how to proceed. But I would suggest that probably when council considers this, and it would have to be part of the 2023 budget, that they would have to give consideration to treating all lay members equally. So if the new mayor and council comes in and decides that we will open up committee structures to lay members as well, then I would assume that council would want to be consistent across the board with respect to compensation. So I do vaguely recall this discussion taking place in the past, but I'd have to do a search. I can't, my poor wee brain can't process things that have happened that many years ago and where that might have ended up. So between Crystal and I, we could certainly do a search to find out. But procedurally, I would defer to the deputy clerk to advise committee on how to proceed with their recommendation.
Thank you for that. Deputy clerk.
Certainly, if committee wishes for council to consider this, then there could be a motion requesting that. I'm just trying to think again procedurally how to do this. So I'm thinking for committee, it might be that that they request the next term, the next term's committee investigate this and take forward a recommendation to council. I'm wondering if that might be the best form of action. And CEO Corey, does that sound?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So I do think obviously for this term of council, we're coming to an end. So it would certainly be for the next term of council. So I think that committee encourages the 2022 to 2026 council, encourages them to consider remuneration for members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Something to that effect, Deputy Clerk, I'm thinking that. So it's obviously not something we can commit to right now. And this current term of council, who will be ratifying these minutes, can't obviously commit to the next previous term budget. But I think it should be a recommendation of committee that it be considered for the 23 budget and onward. So Crystal can probably take all of that and make it sound really organized. Really smart. Crystal can take all
thank you very much for that. This is great. I like to see stuff like this coming out of this committee and going forward, especially for the next term.
It's not uncommon actually for Accessibility Advisory Committee members to be compensated. I know when we did our previous review that there were some areas that did compensate members of the committee, so it's not uncommon.
Excellent, thank you. So how's the rest of the committee feel about this? Does it sound like something you want to go forward with? Councillor Schumacher.
Well, I was just going to say, I believe it's also done at the district level with the District Accessibility Committee.
Okay. That's good to know. Crystal's typing away there.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a short and sweet motion. I'll bring it up if you want to read it to see what committee thinks.
Okay. Okay, moved by Lorraine Blondin. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Don't see any hands coming up. Oh, Councillor Schumacher. Might have been other hands. I just can always part of the screen right now. There we go. So moved by Lorraine Blondin, seconded by Dion Schumacher. Be it resolved that committee encourage the 2022 to 2026 term of council consider compensation for all members of the Accessibility Committee. Do we need to refer in that to lay persons, or does we just assume that would be the lay people?
I have included that now. So
okay.
Compensation for lay members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Excellent. That sound good? Oh, Councillor or Committee Member Shaw.
So does that include, is that saying for the meetings, or are you should transportation also be in that, or is that already covered somewhere else?
I believe that's already covered already with their other money we have in the budget to pay for if you had to get a cab that you would, or
okay,
you would be reimbursed. This would be something totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, so in our budget is $300 for the year. So I guess that's the other thing, is if you want to look at an increase in that, we need to look at that forward at this point. But yes, there is a budget to do reimbursement.
If I can, Chair Emmer, just to note, and speaking about the amount has actually been reduced quite well, obviously because of COVID, but even before that, just because it wasn't being used. But that is something that committee can do, is submit that per our processes. That committee, any committee member that incurs any cost to get to the meeting can submit it.
Okay, excellent. Good to know. Committee Member Blondin, go ahead.
Just a question, and maybe Laurel can answer this question, is say we had 6 meetings a year and 2 people needed a taxi. How much does it cost to take a taxi in town? I've never done it, so I have no idea what we would significantly be budgeting for. So, Diane would know this. So is 300 enough?
So it's $11 per ride in town. If you live anywhere past like Highway 60, the amount increases. So if you live in town, you're looking at $11 per trip. So each way.
Okay, thank you for
So
that.
22 total.
Correct.
Round trip.
Currently with the current prices.
So should we raise our budget request to 600? I'm just thinking 300 is not going to go very far in a year.
I think that's something that we'd have to put forward with the new committee members, I believe. Crystal, you want to speak to that?
If I could just note that if there's any cost incurred for our policies and processes, it can be submitted. So the budget was, like I said, it was higher at one time and it just was not being used, which brought it down. However, if it starts to be used again and needs to go up, then that can come forward to committee at that time. And we could certainly look at increasing that budget in future years, as well as looking at doing budget deviations. Should we have multiple members who needed that? That's all our finance people that would want to speak to that. But the reason that the budget is where it's at is looking at the past 5 to 6 years and where and how much money was spent out of that budget.
We definitely ensure that nobody incurred any cost to attend a meeting. I see it was popped in the screen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So typically when we do look at remuneration for committees, remuneration for attendance would be to reflect any costs that were incurred by virtue of their participation as a committee member. So I think perhaps we could have some discussions if we know what the request is of committee that you're looking at to have the compensation, then perhaps through budget discussions we can further discuss what that might look like. So typically if we pay a committee member to sit on the committee, it would be deemed that that compensation would cover off their expenses. So I just sort of question, are we asking twice for this thing? And again, without having, I certainly, Crystal and I can further discuss offline. I'm just a little unsure because we haven't provided compensation to lay members that sit on the accessibility committee. I think we might have years ago, but I think if we understand the intent of what the committee is looking for, that they are requesting that, future consideration be given to compensation, perhaps through the next term of council and staff, or where what the ask was, we could factor that into a budget if required. But just my thought on that.
That's good. That's why you're there. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Chair Emmer. So the idea is they're not double dipping. So you're not getting money to come to and from plus being paid to attend. And I believe when we started this term of council under when Scott Aitchison was the mayor, our community services, they did not get the lay members in that particular committee did not get. So some committees do get it and some committees did not, correct?
Right. Okay. So I read the motion. Is all those in favor of the motion? And that passes. Thanks again, Crystal. Great job. So we're moving on here and we're on to 7.3. It's the accessible picnic tables for downtown Huntsville. So would you like to discuss that further, or does anybody have a motion they'd like to put on the table for that?
Would we be needing to look for a cost for those picnic tables and how many? Like,
I think that we'd probably be best if we were going to put a motion on the table is that that the Parks Department works with Tammy and the group to review costs and locations, et cetera, and come back to the new committee with the report, I believe. Councillor Schumacher?
Yeah, I guess that's what I was going to say, is that the town work with the Hudson charity in order to pursue, because I think they have a set number of funds that they're looking to, or they don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. So to work with the town on location and costing. That being said, I guess I think they're looking at the cost of purchase, what is also the cost to install, all of those things that the Parks Department
Right.
itself would need
Yeah,
to.
so it would be something that would end up being given to the town in kind, I assume, that we would have to assume responsibility for afterwards. So we'd have to make sure the park staff look into it and make sure they're durable enough and in locations that we can protect them from being, you know, damaged or theft, etc. So does Crystal have a motion for that? I see one here.
I do.
I
I
just,
leaked it a little bit. Would you like me to pull it up, Chair?
yes, that'd be great. Yeah. I do need a mover and a seconder, and I don't see hands people again. I'm gonna move by Diane Lupton, seconded by Laura Shaw. It's recommended that committee request staff work with the Hudson Hair Salon and Spa on details regarding their generous donation of an accessible picnic table for the downtown Huntsville. Excellent. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to move on to number 8, which is general information, and 8.11 is council update. And I'll let Councillor Schumacher go ahead.
Right. Well, we had a great presentation last night from, it's escaping me, the chair of the hospital committees that are putting forward the proposals of the 2 new builds and looking at our impact from that as a community, and the ask, of course, for our contribution to the hospitals in Huntsville and of course Bracebridge as well. Long meeting last night. Trying to think of some of the other highlights. I'm just, yeah, it's escaping me.
Yeah, we did actually have a month off. We met in July and we took August off, so it was our first meeting in quite a while. So we were all a little rusty, I think, at the beginning. But I think the highlight was the Huntsville Hospital directors bringing out the report of the 2 hospitals, and basically what they're asking for is we have to fund a portion of it, basically for the amenities like hospital beds, etc., like that. So, and that was passed at council. We don't actually have a dollar figure yet, because as you know, that's a moving target in today's market. But good presentation, and it was passed at committee. As you know, we're coming to an end here, so it's not a whole lot on the books at this time, and as we move forward. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Schumacher or myself? I'm not seeing any. That's good. Okay, we're going to move on to 8.2. That's IAG Partners Meeting, September 26, 2022 update. And is Crystal giving us an update on this one? Or Dion? Councillor Schumacher?
I believe it's Councillor Schumacher.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, so I had put that forward to see if anybody could attend the IDEA group yesterday, because I was not able to. But what they are doing is looking for members. So of course, IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Anti-Racism. And it's a district committee that they've started. Now, one thing that Deputy Mayor Alcock did mention, that at the district level, they did pass an IDEA community grant program. So that is going to be moving forward for people to be able to apply for community grants. And it is up on the website for people to take a look at. The membership is dwindling. And again, I guess kind of similar to our conversation here that Lorraine had brought up, is they sort of have 2 sectors. So you have your champions group, so people with lived experience, and you have your partners group, which are people who advocate for individuals with lived experience, right? They are having difficulty getting members sort of from both, enough members in both committees. So the goal that Tina Kilborn from the district did get back to me on is they are looking to combine those two committees. So the Champions Committee and the Partners Committee then would just become one committee, and trying to get a well-rounded group of members that could attend. The goal when they came to the District Accessibility Committee was to try to get individuals with lived experience from a disability lens. And so I was hoping to be able to sit on that committee, but again, the timing doesn't work with our Huntsville Council meetings because it's always the fourth Monday of the month at the district level. So they are going through the District Accessibility Committee meeting minutes and then trying to pull to make sure they are capturing what is being talked about at the district level. So if, again, anybody is interested on sitting on that committee at a district level, they are going to be looking for new members. And I think, again, it is mostly through Zoom. So it's not having to go to Bracebridge to sit at a district level. So it might make things a little easier for somebody with lived experience to do. And lastly, I guess the other thing was, I think through Crystal, I had put out to the committee as well on a district level that the district was looking to do their moving forward survey, which ended right after the Labor Day weekend. So hopefully people were able to get in their input with that. But again, it's looking at accessibility standards throughout the whole district as we move into meeting compliance for AODA in 2025.
Great.
So
Thanks
that's
for that.
District updates.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. Something for the committee moving forward to maybe look at, and with new committee members, someone might be interested in that for sure. Does anybody have any comments? I don't see any. So
lastly, I can say Tina did send me a video link of the presentation and the meetings from yesterday. So if anyone is interested, I'll forward that to Crystal as well, and she can send it out to the group.
Perfect. That'd be great. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Dion. So that moves us right along to 8.3. That's the farewell and thank you. I can't say thank you enough to everybody for attending the meetings and being part of this committee and working through the pandemic as well as we did, and the achievements we've accomplished. Your input is invaluable, and I can't wait to see what the new year turns. But be sure, if you're interested, to put your application in for the next term of council, because this meeting or this committee is well respected amongst the councillors and myself, and I look forward to maybe having the opportunity to work with everybody again. I'm not sure, but I think Crystal might have something to say for us.
I just also wanted to say thank you. It's been a pleasure working with all of you, and same thing. I hope that I'll see you all again soon, hopefully in the committee, and if not, in another capacity. So thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. So, in saying that, I just need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Schumacher and Laura Shaw. Seconded. It's recommended that we do now adjourn at 14:22. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and be safe.